What's up, guys? Welcome back to Landmine University. Coach Kanellis here, and in this video, I'm going to take you step by step through the Landmine University Wall Stretch. We use this stretch before every single Landmine University session. This is one that you can continue to make progress on, and it's a stretch, but more importantly than that, we use this for activation and the establishment of a long side and a short side of the core. All you're going to need is an empty spot on the wall. Let's get right into this, and why don't you try to follow along. All right, the first thing I'm going to do with this wall is I'm going to reach my left hand up on the wall, and I'm going to curtsy the corresponding foot. So my left foot's going to go back and across, and I'm going to dump that left hip on the wall. So right now I'm in kind of a passive position, and already I can feel a little bit of a stretch through my left lat, my left oblique, and my left QL. You can see I'm not putting any weight on that left foot. My weight is mainly on the wall with some weight on that front foot, that right foot. Once we're in this position, we've already established the left side as the long side of our body. Next thing we want to do is get as short as possible on the right side. So to do that, we're going to start by winding up our fascia. We're going to hold an imaginary shot put, cock our wrist, and that's going to put us in full external rotation on that right side, which is something that we want. The next step for the wall stretch is connecting the bony part of your elbow with the front of your hip. We're going to try to get our elbow and hip to touch as low of a spot as possible. And this is going to be our Landmine University landmark. So when you hear us say landmark or use landmark as a coaching cue, we're talking about the contact point between your elbow and your hip on the short side of the body. Whenever we do long side, short side training, you're going to see elbow hip connection on the front foot side or the short side. Once we feel good about our landmark, the next thing we want to do is find full activation on that short side of the body. To do that, we're going to create pressure through that landmark from both directions. So I'm driving my elbow into my hip. But more importantly than that, I want to hike my hip up into my elbow, boom, and create pressure from the bottom. So right now I'm driving my hip into my elbow, and that's what's going to lift my right heel. So as we're doing this exercise, we want to make sure our heel's not flat, it's lifted, and it's not a forced calf raise. My hip is lifting because of what I'm doing with that right side oblique. So I'm driving that hip up and forward as I drive that shoulder and elbow down and back. You can see my eyes are straight forward, feeling that stretch on the left side of my body and feeling the activation on the right side or the short side. We want to be in this for like 15 seconds of a stretch and then another 15 seconds of real activation, trying to create as much pressure through that spot as possible. Boom, and then we relax. Always important to do both sides when you're doing this exercise. Now, as I go to the other side, you guys are going to get a look from another angle. Now I'm reaching that right foot up, curtsying that right foot across, dumping that right hip on the wall. Now my left hand's in that full external rotation, and I'm going to find that landmark. As we find this position and create that tension, it's important to look for a couple different things. Number one, the left side, the short side of my body, is going to correlate with the long side of my neck. So when you get in this wall stretch position, make sure you don't crank your neck towards the short side. Make sure that neck stays long. And a longer distance between your shoulder and your ear is going to allow you to pack your lats and obliques even tighter. 15 seconds of a stretch, and then 15 seconds of a hard activation where we're driving the hip up and forward as we drive the elbow and shoulder down and back, memorizing that contact point, that landmark. You do that for 30 seconds on each side, you're already going to feel loose, ready to create that tension on one side at a time. And then when you get into the Landmine University movements, keep this in mind. Whenever we split our feet, the front foot is going to correlate with the short side of the body and is going to correlate with that landmark. So if I'm in my blade position with my right foot forward, I'm going to have that elbow pressure. If I'm in my lockout position, I'm going to find that elbow pressure on the other side. Same with the hang position. This is going to help you clean up your technique and coach these movements more efficiently. So don't forget, start with the wall stretch. Do it before every single session. You're going to get better at finding your landmark and creating more pressure. It's going to give you the ultimate activation for your lats, your obliques, and all the muscles that power the spinal engine. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I'll see you next time at Landmine University.